Welcome to Laptop Radio. Today's topic is investing in fintech and software. We have Shawn Lee, principal with Mubadala Capital with us. Hello, Shawn. How are you?
Hi, Michelle. I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Where are you located now?
I am actually back in the San Francisco area now. I've been actually spending some time outside of the Bay during COVID, but glad to be finally back in the city. And it seems like things are finally starting to open up.
Awesome. I'm super excited about chatting with you today. First, tell us your story.
Yeah, so take it from the top. I'm with an organization called Mubadala Capital Ventures. We are the early stage and growth equity VC arm of Mubadala, backing visionary founders building enduring technologies globally. So we're active investors where we focus on software, fintech, healthcare, and mobility. And we represent Mubadala, which is the $250 billion sovereign wealth fund of Abu Dhabi. I joined the team almost 4 years ago now. Time flies. We first started off building this practice here in San Francisco, and we've gone from 5 portfolio companies to now over 60 in roughly 3-4 years. So it's
Wow.
very, very busy for us. We've got a lot of dark bags under our eyes, admittedly, but it's been a great journey. And by trade, before joining Mubadala, I used to be at a different venture capital firm focused on Series A investments, and then used to be a traumatized and recovering investment banker by trade.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's awesome. I'm really excited about Mubadala because I went to the Silicon Valley Tennis Classic and Mubadala actually sponsored the event. I think it's just really the only event that I see a number of giant posters of women at the event. It's pretty awesome. I used to be at Stanford and then the location changed, and I'm really grateful that the firm continued the legacy because the Classic is founded by a woman tennis player. I just wanted to thank you again and everyone at the firm for doing that. It's always an inspiration to attend. But tell us about some of the projects that the firm invests in so far.
Sure. So out of our office here in San Francisco, we focus on 4 major verticals. Software, primarily focused on application software, things like SaaS opportunities. Fintech, which encompasses both traditional financial innovations around payments and banking, capital markets, but also insurance as well as property tech. Healthcare, which we look at life sciences and biotech, and then mobility, which we spend a lot of time looking at logistics as well as the autonomy sectors as well. I'm happy to sort of go into our investments across all those 4 categories. We focus on what we would define as early growth. And that's primarily nominally in Series B to Series D stages, but the letters have absolutely no meaning these days, given how fast some of the fundraisers are happening. But what we define as early growth is post-product market fit. We have some amount of data to really evaluate, working and discussing the company with customers, and really looking through some of the cohort data as well and seeing whether or not there's growth in the opportunity and the product.
What are the most important qualities that you look for when you're evaluating projects to invest?
Sure. It's a really good question, and it's something that we internally debate all the time. But no matter how much debate we have, we feel like we still come back to a couple of North Star characteristics of businesses. And first and foremost, really is around exceptional founders with a unique and differentiated vision with a very balanced team that's helping make the vision come true to life. Second is we look for large market opportunities, whether that's tackling a massive pre-existing market that runs with, unfortunately, legacy technology that requires a certain level of innovation to happen to meet the modern consumer needs, or totally carving out a whole new market in and of itself. Third is just a unique and advantageous technology product. What are you really building that's differentiated, that really is capturing the mind wallet share as well as the mind share of your customers and prospective customers, which really we can look at by evaluating the product market fit.
Awesome. That's really cool. And I know a few of your portfolio companies. I have used Brex before, for example, and I love it. I would just use the credit card and the receipts would be scanned. It was really convenient, and that was it. When you speak with companies like Brex, Cartless, and Spot On, those are all fintech companies. What about fintech that interests the firm?
Fintech for us really is, I mean, everyone talks about how massive it is. And I think the beauty of fintech is how much you can expand from a single point of a problem that you're trying to resolve with your first product. right? A lot of times when you look at fintech, for example, even with Rex, it all started off with how do we offer these founders of young startups the ability to not have to spend their own credit or their own credit cards to expense or put a lot of these spend on their own cards, but actually find a way to seamlessly bifurcate your own credit as well as the company's credit by looking at a unique underwriting model. And the beauty of fintech is that once you start with that small little problem, which ends up actually being a massive problem for a lot of founders, you realize that there are ancillary or related problems that could also be resolved through offering similar products. Expense management is the most logical one, and one that obviously Brex offers. How do we offer deposit accounts that you store your earnings as well as your cash that you've successfully fundraised into a safe location and generate interest? All those things about fintech is it touches upon every aspect of our lives, both as a consumer, as even or as a business. And the massive problems that you see both as a singular as well as on a massive scale is what captivates us when we're investors in fintech.
Yeah, I've looked into Cartless and Spot On, and I love it. I mean, Spot On seems like they have different offerings, and Cartless has a loyalty program for their customers, which is really important because it gamifies the whole payment
I
experience.
think you're totally right on that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm super excited about them. And I saw that you also invested in a few insurance companies. And that's really interesting because I feel like insurance is a cousin of payments, but it's a little bit different. That's why I say it's a cousin.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yep.
What is the firm's interest in insurance? And how do you think insurance could change in the next couple of years?
It's an interesting question. You're absolutely right, by the way. They're definitely cousins because they all see the same tailwinds in the industry of everyone talks about the cloud, of digitization, the embedding of banking and insurance. All of that is driven by the same themes. For us, when we look at insurance, we think that the world is in a very different place than 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, where the level of technology advancement, the adoption of cloud, the interest around consumers feeling more comfortable purchasing insurance, not just from physical agents, in-person agents, but also digitally, has significantly accelerated over the past years, especially through COVID as well. When we look at insurance, the first area that we wanted to invest in, and we did through Gabby Insurance, where we led the Series B, is how do we digitize the experience of purchasing insurance away from purely going into a local branch and then having to spend hours there looking for the right insurance? How do we really digitize that with data and make sure the experience is personalized? So that was the first area that we looked into. And second is, what are niche insurance risk pools or areas that really hasn't been well captured from a risk perspective and underwriting capabilities that the new availability of data streams globally as well as locally can help these companies provide insurance fairly to both the consumers as well as to the businesses. And the best representation within our portfolio for that would be Arbol Insurance, which offers parametric insurance based on weather data to energy companies, farmers, the supply chain manufacturers that are all affected by global weather, especially during these days of climate change. We think this is a very interesting segment that Arbol is tackling. To answer your second question around where's really insurance going, you're asking a hell of a question, which is $1 million question for all of us. One thing I would say is you're going to see many more of these interesting pieces that are able to capture new data streams coming out of sensors for either IoT or new data streams coming out from businesses themselves with robust underwriting capabilities to really provide next generation insurance, whether that's on cybersecurity, business interruption, earthquake insurance, weather data for Arbol. I think we're going to see more and more of those. And the second thing is embedded. Everyone talks about embedded, and I think it's how do we really prevent a consumer from having to go on a website and shop for insurance separately when you're buying cars, used cars? Why can't you just buy car insurance based on the information you've already put in through Carvana, for example, and then purchase an insurance at the point of checkout? That seamless experience, I think, is going to be the next generation of distribution, and we see companies, again, within our portfolio, Gabby, doing exactly that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That's like a checkout on Amazon, like where you're buying an Apple iPad, and then they ask you if you want Apple Care.
Literally. And that's exactly what we're hoping actually happens. It's like, I'm personally tired of having to go through millions of different websites when I'm buying my insurance, or it should be in a single location.
Yeah, and the information that they provide to you regarding each insurance is completely different too. It's really interesting. I think it would be awesome if they have different charts showing all your limits and
Yeah,
liabilities and all that. That would be awesome.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about healthcare. And I saw Paceline, and it seems like it's very specific again. Because when I saw Arbol Insurance, I saw farmers, very specific industries. This is awesome because usually insurance are not focused on these different industries. And I see that everything is very segmentized. What is your thoughts on Paceline and what they're doing?
Absolutely. Joel at Paceline, as well as the business, is one of those unique meetings that I still remember. um, when I first met Joel 6 months ago, he checked the first and foremost the exceptional characteristics of a founder that we look for, which is the immense energy, the magnetism, the hustle, but also just a full, unique, and differentiated vision that he could bring to the table based on his years of experience working at some of the greatest and largest insurance companies globally. And
Mhm.
so that checked off the first box, obviously, on the founder. We already know the market for health and fitness is massive. The amount of
Mhm.
spend in that category continues to increase, whether that's in person at physical branches or you see some of the innovative models of Tonal and Tempo and all the other at home workout devices. But for Paceline, what really captured us is first and foremost in that it is the most seamless and easy to use app that just simply tracks your workouts and how active you are on a weekly basis and
Mhm.
rewards you at some of the top brands like Athleta, Amazon, and so
Mm.
forth based on the amount of time you're working out. So there's a huge social element that we respect a lot in Paceline. And how do we make sure every living citizen in the world is able to leverage their workouts and their physical activity and convert that into currency and
Yeah.
actually reap the financial benefits of it. And down the road, obviously, what we get excited about Paceline is based on the high active user count that they have already on the app, even with $0 in marketing. We see there's a lot of opportunities for them to expand to different areas of financial services, whether that's like credit cards, which we just announced, and eventually, with enough data, coming off of your wearables, we hope that they can potentially dynamically price insurance offerings as well. Life insurance and supplemental health insurance in the nation is very stagnant. The way to underwrite those businesses or individuals is maybe once a year, once a lifetime. That's not how it should be right now. Based on the amount of data that we have that we're generating from these devices, how do we really reward those that are actively working on taking care of the health with the right
Mhm.
premiums? And at the same time, how do we motivate those individuals who are not participating in physical activity to do
Mhm.
so and to be better and to live a longer and healthier life?
Mhm. What are some of the characteristics do you look for in a founder? I think you mentioned a few earlier, but what really stands out with all these founders that you have invested in? What about them that you think is really different? Because I feel like there's so many payments company out there, as well as insurance, health company, like you mentioned.
Right.
But what is it about the founders that you look for that impressed the firm?
I would say first and foremost, I keep going back to this concept of a differentiated, unique vision. And if I
Mhm.
give more color to that, it means that they have a differentiated perspective of a problem that they see in the market and how to actually solve that problem. And they can deliver that vision and articulate it clearly and precisely to all the stakeholders, including ourselves as investors, to
Mhm.
potential customers, and to even their own prospective employees. And the second thing is how you really get to that vision. This is not by no means a requirement, but there's generally some sort of an alignment between the founder's story or experience and the business that they're trying to build.
Mhm.
And it's the ability to inspire, the magnetism, as I've mentioned earlier, whether that's investors, stakeholders, employees, customers, the public, is how do you really believe and buy into this massive vision that you're selling to the world?
Mhm.
And last but not least, I think it's so important. Is how do you really motivate and attract exceptional talent? The founders are only one part of the story. A major part, nonetheless, is but they're not going to be the only ones building that story. You have to attract the right talent across many different top companies in the Bay Area or globally in helping to make this vision come to fruition.
What do you like most about your position as a principal at the firm? What does your day look like? And what do you look forward to in the morning?
Funny, I actually love being humbled every day, and it's actually it's sad, but like sometimes I feel very stupid at the end of the day walking out because you meet so many of these exceptional people in your life and on a day-to-day basis, and I'm humbled and privileged to be in a position to work with these founders to discuss their next round of financing, or how do we enter a certain geography or a new market, or how do we really build upon that product. Like all those things help me become potentially a better investor, but I enjoy these kind of discussions and hashing it out with the founders. So if you ask me, as you said, on a day-to-day, part of my day is listening to new pitches from new founders that I have not met before or have previously met about their next financing, and discussing whether they could be a good fit for us as a part of our portfolio, but also vice versa. How can we really help them through the global capital of Mubadala, $250 billion we have at disposal, but also just the network that we have to support these founders' growth. And second is, a lot of times I'm talking with our portfolio founders as well. I hope to be that one of potentially many supporters around the table, but that one founder that they can come to me, pick up, say, hey, let's grab a drink. I'm really stressed. Or, hey, I got this problem. Have you heard about anything in the industry that could be really helpful? Those are things that I do on a day-to-day basis with our founders. And last but not least, it's just really crunching through data as well. That's something I do, is looking through a lot of data rooms, a lot of cohorts, a lot of financial models, and seeing, is there a clear and a viable path for this company to deliver an outsized return for our fund? Last but not least, something that we generally do, obviously, during pre-COVID days, is go to happy hours, which every VC does, yes, but I like to do that, catch up with a lot of my friends. I've been in this industry for the past, call it 4+ years now, 4.5 years, and it's nice to catch up with a lot of your friends from different industries, different VC firms, and just sharing notes and just sharing ideas about how life goes on and how they've been.
Yeah. And what is Mubadala's vision? Because it's such a big fund. What is the vision and the values for the firm?
Like any other top global asset managers, we want to be up there fighting with the best, as we already have been for decades. And we want to unlock the opportunities to help founders really come to make their vision come true through the network of Mubadala, right? As I've mentioned, we manage about $250 billion. Obviously, that's divided into different asset strategies. I'm part of a dedicated venture and growth. But locally here, we have this global scale and resources and capital available to our founders. We ask our founders from day one is, how can we be there for you to really leverage everything that we have to make sure you emerge as a winner, and to not let any barriers of bureaucracy or a scale of our larger organization stop you from achieving that dream. And so we work, that's what I meant as in a day-to-day basis, we work with our founders. We have a dedicated value creation team, and bringing these 50+ countries in over 15 sectors that we invest in, the value additive introductions we can deliver to the founders. And if they continue to deliver, then we as an organization have the firepower to support them through every stage of their growth, even through the IPO stages, as well as their SPAC processes, which have been very popular recently.
Awesome. That's really cool. You mentioned a little bit about the firm. In terms of traction for the different startups or different companies, what are you looking for in terms of traction? How many users do they need?
Oh man,
Fintech, like one
or
2,000?
That's such a hard question. And there's something that I've been bouncing ideas off of my few friends at other firms in the similar investing stages as well, is the answer is constantly changing. I mean, years ago, if you look at the Series A valuation, it was the pre-money average valuation is much lower. They have like, someone said North Star metric back then was like $1 million in ARR or whatever, then everyone's ready to write that paycheck. Right now, even us, as well as every other fund in the area, is we invest earlier and earlier and early with less traction. Some of our companies we've invested at this are pre-revenue. They have some users, but we believe what we ultimately buy in is, how do we parse out the noise, and then how do we look at the ultimate vision, understand and triangulate the vision, story of the founder, the traction already, and seeing if this valuation might be rich, but what is really the ultimate upside of this business. And if you do see that 5 to 10x from today onward at the valuation, we're comfortable committing, knowing how disruptive this businesses can be. Ideally, I'm just gonna put it out there. Ideally, we would still like to see, if it's a software business, a couple $1 million in ARR, some sort of retention and net retention numbers that we can evaluate to see there's product market fit, a product roadmap. All those things are ones we would like to see from a traction perspective. But unfortunately, venture is not a black and white industry. It's a very gray industry where we take every opportunity seriously and differently each time.
Let me ask you the most interesting question. Sure. You've seen a lot of decks already. What is one deck that impressed you the most?
What is the one deck? I'm not going to say who. I love similarly, but There are ones that are very clear. And you think that's pretty easy to do, but having clarity in the deck and having clarity when the founder is using the deck to deliver the story is very different, by the way. And there is one company that started off very cleanly by saying, this is what we're disrupting. And this is exactly the amount that we're going to disrupt. And based on the product that I have with my own personal experience, this is exactly the steps we are going to take to achieve that vision. And this is the reason why we're doing the fundraise. Every deck sounds like that, by the way. Every deck has the massive TAM at the beginning, the founder's story, the product, the roadmap. Don't get me wrong. But yes, there are a few of them that flips the order around to make sure the story fits really well. And I think those are the type of founders that we really appreciate working with and talking with. And having that, whether they use the deck or not is also the separate question. But if they do use it, it's not like the end all be all. It's just the tool that they're using to deliver the story.
Yeah, awesome.
I'll be honest, there are obviously companies, even within our portfolio, that's in hyper growth, and they start with a number, right? Like, look at what they got from A to B in like 6 months or 3 months. Even one of our portfolio companies that just actually announced today, which is spot on, we just actually had and committed to a follow-on investment 3 months into the last one. And if I reflect on their deck, the metrics is just part of it. They have such a clear vision as to delivering why the story is just beginning at now versus even 3 months ago. And I think those are the decks that really stand out.
Do you have any advice for founders who are creating these decks so that they could be better and clearer for investors?
I would say it's not all about being pretty. It's really not. It's really not about just being pretty. Spend more time, obviously, getting feedback from VCs like myself or even your friends. Help you is literally what I say is well, the best thing we would do and the happiest thing we're happy to do is sit down with you and then to go through the deck with you and talk about where the pitfalls are, where you need to really work on your story. Pitch practice is surprisingly not common, but we would love to be there to support you and make sure you build that right deck.
Mm-hmm.
Quantity of slides is definitely not the factor. So like, more is never really better, to be honest.
So you mean I can't give you a 50 slide deck?
Oh, Michelle, I've seen like 80-page decks too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
80-page deck. All right. That's a thesis.
Oh, the other thing I actually see more recently, which I think you would appreciate, is some of our founders actually don't even write decks. They actually write a paper to really hash out their thoughts and put it down on Word. And I've found for some founders that's been exceptionally helpful is they put themselves in our shoes as an investor, or they've put themselves as a founder, and they're like, look, these are the questions I'm anticipating. These are the questions I'm going to answer for you on Word. So it saves all of us time, but it also gives me an opportunity to precisely write down what I'm thinking and what we have achieved, rather than trying to cram it into a single line. And so some of our founders have actually written down these narratives, and they've been super helpful in making us better understand the story. And when we come to the first meeting, all of us are prepared, all of us have read through the document, and we're like, okay, this is your story. These are the areas we really want to go into beyond spending the first 10 minutes in introduction.
That's pretty awesome. So it's not a scientific or technical paper, it's more of a story.
Not at all. It's not like white papers. It's just it's a story. And let me just tell you my story. It's who am I? Why am I in this position? What are we building? Where are we going? Why do we need the capital? Just much more meat than just dealing with that slideshow.
Awesome. That's really cool. And does your firm work with other investor firms?
Absolutely. I mean, we've co-invested with all the other firms in the area. Having 60 portfolio companies really gives us the fortunate opportunities to build great relationships with some of the top funds in the area that we respect a lot, as well as top emerging investors as well. We can go off on a name basis. There's so many, but there's a lot that we do work closely with.
Awesome. And I wanted to ask you about diversity because I pretty much discovered your firm through the Tennis Classic. And so when you're investing in these companies, do you also look at diversity as well?
I would say you're absolutely right, by the way. The industry is very behind diversity, right? I think especially for example, investing in women, like we need to do a better job addressing the issue. And it is on top of mind personally as an investor all the time. And even for us as a firm, one of the things we've been able to do recently is actually invest in a partnership called Altitude Labs with Lux Capital and some of the other top healthcare investors in the area, where we want to back underrepresented founders. And that's something that we've maturely committed to as a mission. And we're constantly trying to form and identify new partnerships that we can participate in and back to make sure the diversity initiative is really pushed forward in the future.
Awesome. And is there anything you want to share that I have not asked you?
I guess you can ask us what we do differently. It's time for my pitch, I guess, right?
Yeah. What do you do differently?
Yeah.
Who are your competitors?
That's such a good question. I will not say names, but let's just say there's a multiple number of firms that we are dying to beat. Sometimes we do beat, and sometimes they beat us. And so we've had a lot of punches left and right recently, especially given how competitive the market is. But we're all friends here. I just want to reemphasize how we're different a little bit in that, well, I'll be honest, we've been in this Bay Area doing this business as an institution for only the past 5 years. We're very young to this industry, and we respect all the pioneers of other venture capital firms who've paved the way for the past couple of decades, as well as some of the top emerging investors who have jumped on the scary ride with us and have been going with us, fortunately. But what differentiates us is that we're not starting off as a small institution. We bring decades of global investing as an organization with that $250 billion for years. And we bring that full scale of capital, resources, value additive introductions we can make both strategically and globally and locally to our founders and helping them grow really quickly, whether that's a consumer facing business or whether that's a B2B business. And so we really hope to be one of those calls that you can make and think about us as unique, differentiated institution that can really help open a lot of doors and many other firms cannot.
If you're a founder, approaching VCs is always really scary because they look at the team, the product, and then traction. At what stage should founders think about the firm?
It's a good question. Our sweet spots are, again, nominally Series B as in beta or Series D as in delta. Our first checks in are about $10 to $30 million, which we're comfortable leading rounds as well as following syndicates. We've done a lot of leading and we've been competitive in a lot of term sheets as well. So that's probably when I would say on a general basis, we can be the most amount of help. But at the same time, we sometimes evaluate even Series A opportunities if we believe that the vision and the opportunity is so big that we want to have a foot in the door with a small investment as well.
Okay, awesome. And what is one piece of advice that you would love to share with the community?
I would say this is something that I go through on a day-to-day basis, is that, again, it's staying humble and always appreciating the opportunity to learn. When I say I emerge feeling dumb at the end of the day, it's because I meet with so many exceptional people who've given me great advice, who've guided me on my own path and my own journey, and enlightening me with some of the opportunities and the risks that they're taking with their startups. And so don't be afraid to reach out to people. That's something I always do. You think that the venture industry is always about inside connection. I cold email all the time and ask for introductions all the time because I believe that you can never not learn enough and not meet people who can really be a pivotal and an important companions on your life journey. So that's one advice I would have. Stay humbled and always be learning.
That's awesome. Thank you, Shawn. I'm really excited for your time today. And I think once your firm invests in crypto and blockchain, hopefully we'll do this again.
I would definitely hit you up that time, Michelle. I think there's a lot that we can do together and definitely one of those promising areas that we've seen so far. And let's just say we're early, we're visiting, but we're not going to go away. And
Awesome.
We'll definitely be spending a lot of time in that sector.
Yay. Thank you, Shawn.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye-bye.
Bye.